Hello and welcome to the review show of the Parador Junior Championship, and I'm delighted to be joined by my boss and Saul Manager Ronan McCartan. Ronan, thanks a million for coming on today. I'm sick beside you, but I thought there's no better man to talk about championships, and I know you didn't want to talk about the intermediate, so I got you, bribed you into coming on and talking about the junior.
Right, dead on. More like nobody left. I think you probably asked everybody else. Scraping the bar all night.
No, definitely not. No, definitely not. The I suppose that it's been funny the way that the lead up with the leagues and out there, but now it's 5 weeks, I think, we won a championship, and every team's going to fancy it now.
Yeah. Again, the way the times are going, we're still probably in sort of uncertain times a bit. You don't know. You're probably just playing sort of day by day or training session by training session because there's tests going all the time and you don't really know. And it seems to be that there could be the potential that teams may get put out of a championship if they can't field or if they get a case. So, touch wood, hopefully we get a full championship, club championship complete anyway in junior, intermediate and senior. But it is now. It starts on Thursday night. I think there's a good wee buzz about the county, as it always seems to be. So fingers crossed it sort of goes like that now.
Yeah, it's going to be weird that there is only 100. I think it's 150 tickets available through the clubs. There's some massive games throughout the championships, like so. But they seem to have organised it well down and through that team app as well. There is ways of getting extra tickets.
Yeah, I've seen that, and I've seen the app there went on live this morning on Facebook too, that there were a few tickets available. So it's good that they're on the ball, and you would hope maybe that throughout closer to the weekend that maybe more tickets become available. It may be difficult just for the senior championship, such a demand with some of the bigger clubs, but you're hoping junior and intermediate you'll be able to get to see quite a few of them. I know I have the season ticket there, the club season ticket, and I had a email through what games I wanted to go see at the weekend, so at least hopefully you'll get a ticket. But as you say, the more neutrals that you can get to go to it would obviously be good as well.
No, and it kicks off on Thursday night, and in Drummond, St Paul's are taking on Mitchell's. St Paul's, the form team in Division 4.
Yeah, St Paul's were very close last year in the league, and they've picked up just exactly where they left off. They've put on some great scores. Seem to be a very well organised team. Seem to be a very forward-thinking club. Like they have got a vision. No matter you've seen the sort of player profiles and that they done during the lockdown, and they were all looking to get Division 2 status, which is fantastic to have that sort of foresight. But their main men really seem to be Sean Tucker and Daniel Eastwood seem to be very, very scoring heavily again. And we played, I was with Ballymartin Miners maybe 5 years ago, 4 years ago, one of my first coaching jobs, and we went down to play St Paul's, and just being from Mourne, you wouldn't really have notoriously known of them being one of the bigger minor teams, but the boys were telling me that they had a really good under-16 team 2 years previous, so we went down and just totally hammered us. We just played them in a challenge game, but you could see some of the players then that they had coming through, and probably the big problem they had was to try and keep them fellas coming through, because obviously a lot of distractions closer to the city you get, different sports, just growing up as well. So they seem to be working very hard on that, and fair play to them. But they'll definitely, I think they'll be pushing to try and win that championship this year.
Just with the, I know you're heavily involved with the Down and Mourne Academy through the years. St Paul's, have they had a good representation throughout the last number of years?
They started to now. If you remember, they started to get young Gray was on it last year, setting half back for the minors. So it's just starting to get more players coming through, and they're doing an awful lot of work. I actually done my level 1 on that in the club as well, probably 6 years ago, and they were just putting a big emphasis then on underage. And if you follow them on Facebook, they're very active on social media. You can see they've got every age group covered. They're doing an awful lot of work underage. So I would hope that obviously the more clubs like that, with the arrival of East Belfast as well, the more clubs in and around Belfast doing work can only improve down football, certainly.
Yeah, and you mentioned two players there. Sean Tucker is meant to be a very good free taker, and Eastwood seems to have moved out the field a wee bit. He's playing number 11 now.
Yeah, he seems to be out in half. From sort of match reports, you would see they do set up on a counter-attacking style, so you don't know where positionally that they're playing. I would say that Tucker maybe float out a bit as well. On playing, I've heard they've kept two up a lot of times, and they maybe try to keep it closer to 4 this year. But there's an seems to be the big emphasis on the two boys scoring heavily, and they seem to have a lot of energy in around the middle. If you look at their pictures and that, they seem to be young, athletic looking fellas they have in around the middle 8. So that seems to be the sort of plan, and they put a lot of work in again over the winter for the strength and conditioning and that. So they seem to be doing the right things and putting the right sort of measures in place till they'll be successful.
No, definitely, and it's great to see. Mitchell's have gone out and got a big name manager. Shorty, a couple of years ago won the league with Castlewellan. He had also a successful stint with Longstone as well. Shorty, likes to play football, and Mitchell's, they've been scoring big whenever they've needed, really.
Yeah, the big thing probably you'll find with Shorty's teams, and it's admirable that he just goes 15 for 15 and they'll try and play football. I don't know how this matchup will go with them on Thursday night, just with St. Paul's perhaps playing a more defensive system. If they do, it'll be hard to break down and see how they counter-attack that. And then if Mitchell's are going 15 for 15, it'll be good. But Mitchell's had a couple of good starts, a couple of games. They pushed Drummond very close in the second game of the league, and they won their first, and they took a bit of defeat in the last game. But Short, as you say, will definitely be looking to play football. There'll be a big emphasis on scoring and just the basic skills. But probably if you can remember, Mitchell's would have amalgamated with Attic Hall a lot during their underage, so they would have got a lot of football, these young fellas, and if they can bring through 6 or 7 of them young lads who were joined playing Attic Hall, they'll have experience, and they'll definitely be looking forward to it. I'm sure Short will have them well ready for Thursday, and looking forward to a go at the championship.
Yeah, I believe Jackie Rory Cunningham's playing great stuff at full forward. He's a prolific scorer anyway, and I played a wee bit of soccer with him. He loves. I think he scored like 20 goals from left back one year. So he's definitely dangerous. But Shorty probably realised that the forwards win games.
Exactly, and that's it. Again, he'd probably love playing with Shorty. What I mean, a big emphasis on scoring and attacking. As a forward, that's just your dream. So they'll definitely be set up that way to try and get attacking and try and goal, because the more they can do it. The only sort of big defeat they took so far was to Calif, who have a bye this week. But Calif seem to be scoring very heavily in this year. But they put on 2-11 against Drummond S. They put up a good victory away in the first game of the league against Ahaderg as well. So as you say, if Rory's got an eye for goal, I'd say this is all set up to try and get the best of him.
Ronnie, just with the two contrasting styles and that, how do you fancy to come out on top? Drummond S pitch, it's renowned for a great service and that. So, do you fancy St. Paul's then with their counter attacking just to edge this one?
I do. If anybody's wondering, this is the brains of the ball operation here just behind me. She goes everywhere. I would say that Drummond, as you say, is a good big open pitch. If Mitchells are smart and use the space well, it'll make it hard for St. Paul's to plug all the holes. But again, if St Paul's do turn the ball over and get it into the couple of Eastwoods and into Tucker early, or if Mitchells maybe aren't just as disciplined, like Sean Tucker from going by the reports is probably putting them anywhere inside 30-35 yards. He's getting over the bar. So I would say there'll be every sort of opportunity for a big open game on a good pitch in Drummond. So Mitchells will be looking to try and utilise as much of that space as possible.
No, so that's a St Paul's win called by Ronan McCartan. I'm just making sure everyone knows that you're making the calls this time. You've done well out of it for all the abuse I got last year.
You look after, you make all the decisions and Saul. I'll do these decisions.
I thought it was Ryan O'Gorman did that, but anyway, on Friday night, okay, one of the highly favoured teams is Auckland versus Ardglass, and of course Ardglass, with a couple of reinforcements again now, they're playing in Leitrim, so a short trip for the Finn. Ronnie, how do you see this one going?
I would fancy Auckland's to Finn. I think that the big advantage that they'll have is playing their 3 or 4 games that they've got at Division 3 standard. Like even last week they took a heavy defeat till Shamrocks, but Shamrocks were in the Intermediate Championship final last year, so that'll stand them in good stead. They've played Saville, who were playing Division 2 football last year. They've travelled to Clanabana, which is a really difficult place to go to. So that experience for what seems to be some new young players will really bring them on a bit. Ardglass, I know Paul O'Shea's over them. Very proud Ardglass man. So he'll have the boys ready, and as you've sort of highlighted in the show before, that McGee's back will be a big plus for them. A very, very good footballer. Very, very strong at that level as well. So they'll be certainly fancying their chances. If it's in the new field in Leitrim, it's a massive field. I know a couple of their championship games last year they played on the older field. However, that new field's just a real big field, so it could suit Auckland's defend even slightly more if the way they play, getting the ball in early. To Shea and Rui Crossgrave, they'll probably try to expose that space if it is there. If it's in the older field, maybe it might tighten up a wee bit better for Ardglass. There's a couple of bigger, stronger men.
I've seen them, on social media there recently, Ardglass with the great initiative of the fishermen introducing them to Gaelic football. So it was great to see. Maybe if a couple might have been signed up by the time.
You'll know them. You'll know them on the weekend if they're lined out in the middle of the field. But I seen Paul again. He was wired in the middle of them, sort of coaching away. So it's great. I done a bit of work with them at the start of the year, just with Ulster. I was doing a bit of coaching with them, sort of helping them get plans in place. So they are looking to progress forward, the club. So like opportunities like this here, they'll take, because Auckland Finn will be heavy favourites. They won Division 4 last year. They're playing Division 3 and they got to the final last year. So Ardglass will have nothing to lose, and if they approach it that way, they could be a dangerous animal.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's going to be close to what people think. I think Mick's moved out to midfield now, and he's supplying Daniel Smith in front of the goal. So I just think people are saying Finn all day, but I would definitely think it's going to be a wee bit closer.
Yeah, no, there will be. Again, Auckland's Finn, probably their big thing they'll want to do is just make sure that they get all their players on the field, because they lost last week quite heavily, but going by reports in their own match report, they were missing an awful lot of players. So the week before they had all their players there and they won. So they'll just want to make sure that they have their players there, because they seem to win whenever they've got their full strength team. They seem to be a better option than maybe the strength and depth might not just be there for them just yet.
No, very true. There's no game on Saturday in the junior championship, so we move to Sunday. It's Ackerdurg versus Drummond S, and later on then Dundrum against East Belfast. But Ackerdurg, Mick McVeigh, first year over them, and the Drummond S, a friend of yours, well, Sean McCann, now in charge.
Yeah, Mickey's took over Ackerdurg this year, and again, he's got a free run at a championship, so he'll definitely be looking at that. I'm sure he's been using these first 3 or 4 games for the league to try and test out boys in different positions and see who get to know his players, because he might not have got a lot of challenge games in before the league was due to start. Sean, I haven't spoken to Sean in a couple of weeks, but Sean was, I'd worked with him in Antrim, and very, very good coach. He's very highly thought of in Antrim as well, and he contacted me at the start of the year and just said, like, if you have any jobs, going around, he says, give me a shout and let me know what they're like. And I said, tell him about Drummoness, and by all reports I'm hearing from a couple of boys in Drummoness, that they just love him down there. He's a breath of fresh air, so he would have a real good approach. He'd be a real good players man as well, and it's a good coup for Drummoness to get him, because he's probably not on the radar for down clubs at the minute, but he could certainly be if they have a good campaign, which I do fancy them to in the next few weeks.
Drummond has to be well fancied, Ronnie. Do you know why is it just they sort of got the players back from one last hurrah, or is it as people have just stepped up to the plate now?
It seems to be just like they had lost a lot of players there for a while, and obviously there's a big soccer pool there and around the club with a couple of very good teams. So, however, as we all know, there's no soccer at the minute. There's some of the teams are starting back, but there's no official start date yet. So they seem to have all their players back, and things are going well for them. Again, they put in some big scores in Division 4 to date. So, they'll definitely fancy their chances on the weekend, but I'd say probably in the back of their mind that they're looking to go even further than that and maybe get to a final and win it. Like they were playing Division 2 football maybe 3 years ago, so they're not a bad team. If they just have everybody available, they'll definitely be, for me, they're probably one to watch for the championship.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And I suppose that the one that a lot of people will be keeping an eye on is Dundrum against East Belfast. Then Shay Kern knows these two teams very well, so maybe Dundrum will be a bit better. But East Belfast have had a hard, difficult time coming into the league. The standard maybe have shocked them a wee bit, and off the field activities as well. How is that going to affect them going into these matches?
You don't know until you're really in it. The funny is, I was down with Brian Strandreyes just doing a coaching session last couple of weeks ago, and Shay was there with Jim McGorian. Shay was taking their minors, and that's who the team I was going with. And he was saying things are going well, and he just said that the big numbers. And from talking, they seem to have colossal numbers. They have a first team, a second team. Everything in the club's going very well, but as you say, it was come to sort of light last week. The off the field activities is probably the big thing that they're fighting there at the minute. You really hope that they put in so much work to try and get everything sorted, get jerseys, get it so well publicised, get members and that. You would hope that they can get on the field and maybe have a good winter then to plan a bit better, maybe try and build some relations around the community that may be going against them. But it's a credit to them to do it so quickly. Dave McGreevy's got it set up there, and he just seems to be flat out with it. But they seem to have big numbers now. I know you said that they've took probably a couple of big beatings, but some boys have maybe never played football at all have come into the club. Some boys maybe haven't played football in a few years or new to down football or just playing together, blending in. So it will be hard for them this year to maybe make inroads into championship or into the leagues, but I'm sure that the more they go on, if they can continue on the momentum that they started, they'll be a big force, because it's a massive pull over there, as you can see with the rise of sort of breeding carried off. There's a lot of people go to Belfast to live and work.
Do you see with the East Belfast, is it so hard to get a team that's never played before? And boys were highlighting before in the podcast where someone was marking Conor Harrison, they were pushing him out to be tackled, but yet your man didn't read it properly, and Conor just ran through on goal. Like, how quick? I suppose you've only got about what was it? They've had 6 weeks to get to know each other.
Yeah, well, this is it. You know what I mean? And you probably take a couple of weeks to get to know even players' names, never mind what they play and stuff like that there. So it can be. And then like just the force that they've become, there's that probably new players joining every week, and every session you could have maybe 5 or 6 new players a week. That seems to be it seems to have like talk of 70 players training with them, high on 50s anyway, which is excellent. So that it is very hard. I once heard Jim McGuinness says it takes 3 months to put any sort of system of play in place. So like if it takes 3 months to put a system in play, how long does it take to get a club up and running and get sort of stuff? So that's when boys are familiar with each other. So it's a very difficult task, but it's admirable what they're doing, and I said hopefully long may it continue, because the more teams that we can get in the county, it's only going to help our club football and ultimately the county teams.
I'm really looking forward to getting the boys on and talking about how they've found this year, and how the idea came about. So that'll be future show down the line, the East Belfast one. So they're playing Dundrum, who have a lot of experience at this level, right? And I don't think they're one of the first clubs to have a player COVID case, and I don't think it's really helped them, in the lead up to the championship.
Yeah, obviously they were out there for 7 days. I know quite a few of the Dundrum lads that are really, really good people in the club. But it hit them hard. And probably the big thing is just with the scare probably in the club, I think they've maybe lost a couple of players from that as well. Just for player safety and family safety, which is completely understandable. Nobody's going to be forced to play it in the circumstances, but they are probably looking to try and blend in a couple of new young fellas, as well as hold on to maybe some of the older fellas, and some of the older fellas maybe have left. I know you've highlighted in the show this year already. Conor Venny would be a big scorer for them, and he's away this year, so he'll be a big loss to their scores. And then we'll just be able to see what sort of team they get out on Sunday. I know Ryan McShane will be a brilliant coach there, and Mark Fitzsimmons, very, very good club man. So like they'll be working very hard to try and get the best team in place for themselves on Sunday. But again, probably the longer term project for the club is to bring through some of the youth that they've got now, and over the next sort of 4 or 5 years, and rebuild again, because they had probably 10, 15 years there of we were playing Division 2, high end Division 3 football. So just goes in cycles, obviously, and that's what they're trying to look at. So I don't, probably, if I'm honest, I'd say they'll not be even themselves targeting maybe winning the championship this year. But obviously, with being totally waylaid and 2 weeks ago, they're probably just glad to be out playing football and training again, which is what everybody wants.
Exactly, and it's great. Mark's coming on the show to do the intermediate review for me. So just shows you taking the time out his busy schedule going up the championship to do me a favour.
He's doing nothing. He's a teacher at the minute. He's doing nothing. He's sitting in the house.
So are you gonna put the Scott and Dundrum and say they're?
I do still think they'll win. Yeah, I think they'll get over this round successfully enough. I fancy a couple of the other teams for a championship, the junior championship. Yeah, but I do think they'll get over. It could be a game. It could be a close game, as you say. Shay will know some of the Dundrum players as well. He's played with a lot of them. So we definitely will know them and probably have a bit of homework done on them. Whereas probably the negative thing for Ryan and Mark is they'll not have as much chance to get as much homework done on East Belfast, because they're an ever evolving team sort of week in, week out.
Yeah, just probably their best bet is going to Jerome Quinn streaming and get the clips and get their full forward to play like Conor Harrison. Probably the best bet. Just talking of Conor Harrison, and they playing the Monday night, Glasdrumman versus St Michael's. Glasdrumman had a great start, and then at the feet, it just shows you, like, I've highlighted before, but just how important Conor is at this level.
Yeah, he'll be a difference maker at this level. Like, he's a difference maker at intermediate level, never mind junior level. So, by all accounts, he'll be the main go-to man for them still. At this level, you're talking he probably needs 2 man markers. Like he would need one probably marking him and one sweeping him, or one very the second one very close to him. So I would say he'd probably be the winner of the game for them. But they like Ramey Clark's tried very hard to get a lot of the boys back, and they do have a lot of their players back, as well as bedding in some of the newer younger fellas that have come through, that I would have known from our old time. So they're good young fellas if they can get them, like Johnny McVeigh's and Matthew Brennan's and the likes of them there. Johnny played last year, but Matthew Brennan will be a good young fella. He'd be in around the full back line. Very, very coachable young lad. So he'll be enjoying his first go at championship football as well this week. Jamie Nichols is another young fella, Matthew Stevenson. So if he can get them bedded in this year, they'll be good young fellas going forward, because they going through the years, they were always very keen to get playing senior football, which was always a big incentive for Glasdrummond. So bringing back some of the experienced players that Ramey's done this year, they'll definitely be. I think they'll be fancying themselves to win a championship. And as you say, with Connor and full forward, they'll have every opportunity to.
No, and St Michael's, I wouldn't have it's only from doing the podcast last year. I've never actually played them or seen them play, but St Michael's, a couple of boys were telling me that there is a couple of fellas coming through the development squads not there with the team.
The big thing with St Michael's, again, we would have played them whenever I was with the under 14s, and they had a very good young team coming through, which they'll probably just be a year shy of right. Keeping. They'll not be ready for senior level just yet. Again, just looking at some of their scores this year, they probably took a couple of defeats early on, but they could be trying new things as well. The league's very unimportant this year. There's no bar winning it. You can't really go up or down. So all the teams are using it just to try and experiment. However, St Michael's, I think, will probably be looking that they're young fellas now. Some of them may have progressed into senior football this year, and some of them next year. There's a young fella we have last year, Jack Mulgrew, be a very good young footballer for them. He should be a down mitre next year. Either outfield or in nets, so he's a good young fella, and they've got a couple of young fellas coming through like that in the future, but they'll probably just be a year short for playing senior football this year.
We haven't mentioned Cleef. Obviously, they've got the bye. No one's going to want to play Cleef for going by the league form. They seem to be, got the house in order, and they're giving the league a good go anyway, and they must be fancied now for this championship.
Yeah, Cleef wouldn't be a club now that I would know a lot about. I know a couple of their players, but they're putting up massive scores. They're averaging 214, 215 a game. We had one young fella there last year with he played for Saul just from the minors and under 21s because there's no age group for him. Matthew Rooney, really good young fella. Again, very coachable. But he plays full back for them or in the full back line. So they've got a very young team, and I know that. And as you say, that they're putting up big scores. They'll be going into this championship full of momentum. Cleef would have been an excellent team when we were younger. Yeah. Like Ballymartin would have had massive run-ins with them. They won their championship as well. So they'll probably be trying to get themselves back up to intermediate level and maybe out of Division 4, which they'll not get this year, but they'll definitely have a chance of winning the league this year and be looking to get that promotion next year then.
But only just with other teams mentioned there, who's your tip then? We've had the boys on in the past and they've given us the I don't think there's been too many that have said the same name. So who's your favourites, ultimate winners for the championship?
I'd probably, if I'm honest, I think Drummond will win it. However, it's going to be very close. It's going to be a good. I think the semi-finals could be very good. It's going to be like if they could avoid each other, Glasdrummond, Drummond, St Paul's, and the Finn will be a good matchup for the semi-finals. Not saying anyone's stronger than they are. I just fancy Drummond. I think maybe Sean took Court and Mona to an immediate championship final a couple of years ago. I think he might just have a good bit of experience. But as I said, there's good teams there. Like St Paul's is a very good up and coming team. I think they could be very dangerous. 2 or 3 scoring forwards, which is always good. Maybe Glasthumans, maybe only fault maybe will be try to find somebody who can add in 3 or 4 points, because like teams do very heavily mark Connor. As we can see, he can score very heavily, but if he does have an off day and maybe only hits 9 or 10 points, maybe where did our maybe 5 or 6 come from? And I think Auckland Finn will, again, just by Shea Crossbury seems to be playing very well this year. They've added Rory up there as well. They'll probably be looking to them boys to score again. And they've got a bit of experience. Donegan Steelan, obviously the captain, middle of the field, a lot of experience for them. So I think it'll be between the. Ideally, you would like to see them 4 as 2 good semi-finals. Khalif has said, well, nobody will want to play, and could really be a dark horse. But I do just, if I'm asked to pick one, I would say Drummond S.
Oh, that's brilliant, and that's comprehensive. Look at the junior championship first weekend. I hope everyone's safe and well. It'd be great to see. The junior championship sort of has really stepped up these couple of years, only as well. The standard of football, hasn't it? Like we were at a couple of games last year.
Yeah, we were at a couple of games last year, and the games have come very good. Like I said, that Khalif team there, as we said, we were talking about. They got to a final a couple of years ago, and Connacht beat them. Connacht won Division 4 and the championship that year. We're very strong, and last year again, Auckland Finn we're just pipped by Bright. So, like there is a city. There's 3 or 4 teams there now that are quite strong at that level, which will lead to good games. If they don't get to the semi-final, it means maybe the second round games could be good. So it all just bodes well for Down football. I said, like, there's young players coming through there in St Michael's. There's East Belfast emerging. If we could get a good junior championship, that would make club football in Down even better. Because we have a very competitive intermediate, very competitive senior, and the top 3 leagues are very competitive. So it's just there definitely is an improving level in Division 4. Especially Division 4, not even just the championship, but the top 5 or 6 teams in Division 4 are really competitive now, which makes it even better.
No, brilliant, and I'm looking forward to these games to see where teams are at in the first round. Ronan, thanks a million. I'll see you later for training.
Yes, no worries. You back up.
As I always do. All right.
Yeah.
Talk to you soon. Well done. Well done.